Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Webster. I am the founder, CEO, and CISO for Cyvergence. And today we're going to talk about my new course, Becoming the Next Generation CISO, Bridging Business and Cybersecurity with Emotional Intelligence. From what I know from talking to other people and a little bit of research, the stuff that I'm covering largely in this course is largely not covered by any other CISO course. So it's really designed to take a look at the CISO role in depth, take a look at how it's evolved, where it came from, and talk about the business needs of how cybersecurity and business should be working together. And a lot of this is glued together with emotional intelligence. That's why the title of this course is what it is. And I'm very excited about this. I think this is a great opportunity for you as a CISO or any leader to figure out what is the best path forward. It's about teaching those non-technical skills. This course is non-technical. I assume that you've already got a technical background. You know what some of those acronyms are that I'm not going to use now. And that's what this course is about. So a little bit of details. It is a full 5 days long. It's close to 40 hours of content, though I'm still in the beta test, as you can see below. Because of that, and also because I'm a small company, I do have flexible scheduling. So once I get one or two people that start to have an aligned schedule, then I'm going to add some more people onto that training to make sure that you're going to get some good people. I also keep the class sizes small. I won't have more than 6 people presently in the course. And that's to make sure that everybody is going to be heard, everybody's going to be understood, and you get some personalized feedback. Now, this is a live course. And I think that's very important. You're going to see some of the processes for that and why that's so important, because you're going to be working with everybody else. People are going to ask questions live. I'm going to give responses live, and everybody is going to be learning from everybody. Right now, I'm looking to start the 3rd beta. We're in the middle of the 2nd beta. And so just for some context for that, this is on September 2025. The course is taught, as I mentioned, online Zoom. And if it's a case that you can't necessarily make it, like I've run into people in both of the 2 beta tests that I've run, they've needed to miss sessions and they can go back and watch it. So the high level agenda. I do talk about where CISOs come from. I do talk about all the pains and the challenges that CISOs are jumping into. Some of that I think is due to emotional intelligence, but also I think that it's due to financial skills and some of these other things, because CISOs are in a terrible situation more often than not. And I think that's for a lot of different reasons. And where I can improve your communication skills, I'm going to do that. Another factor is corporate financial literacy. A lot of CISOs are fantastic at the technical skills. They can talk about enterprise architecture. They can talk about, hey, that's a gap, or we've got compliance skills or things like that, but not necessarily understanding the financial skills. And the reason why that's important, they become a communication skill for working with senior management. And that is very, very important as you start to go through that. And once you gain those skills, you're going to seem like a business player. You're going to be invited to the table a little bit more, or you're going to be seen, if you already are at the table, as a better business player. I do talk a lot about business alignment. I spend hours on business alignment. And the reality is, from my experience, and I run a lot of different groups, a lot of CISOs are not paying attention to some of the key things that they could do to create strong business alignment. And that's what I do. I teach those. I'm a tiny bit of a heretic, but I can say the best CISOs use some of the skills that I use. And that's what's so important about this is I'm going to use my real world experience. We're going to use examples where those business alignment skills are going to be so valuable for you. And that's what I'm doing here. Now, soft skills. Yes, soft skills are part of the training. And a lot of people are like, oh, why do you need emotional intelligence? Oh, why do you need that? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. And to me, soft skills should be a hard skill. This should be the very thing that you care about when you're starting to communicate with others. It is absolutely critical. I go into some of the really dark things that people need to work with. You need to learn how to work with people who are part of something called the dark triad. And there's also the dark tetrad. But to stick with the dark triad, because it's the most well-known, it is going to be somebody who's partially a psychopath, somebody who's narcissist, and a Machiavellian. So that's somebody who's going to be manipulating you. And so these types of things you need to be aware of. And I teach you how to look out for them, what to watch out for, all of these individual details, and how to respond. You, as a person, are not helpless. And what I do is I teach you all the skills that you're going to need to better improve yourself. So that's why the soft skills are so important. You're going to be dealing with them with people to above you, below you, to the right and left of you. You need to pay attention to that. And once you know some of those soft skills, that's going to be important. Soft skills actually are going to be taught throughout the rest of the training program. While there's definitely other emphasis and other things I'm going to be focusing on, everything becomes a soft skill. So it's something that's going to improve you as a leader, as a manager, and as a communicator. And that takes us to the next section, covering the communication skills. There are a lot of communication skills we go into, but I teach you some of the tools and techniques that you can use to better communicate your business case. And that business case is part of what we're doing here. You as a CISO need to be able to speak that business case, and you need to be able to speak effectively. For example, the example I like to use, I actually listened to somebody once years ago, and he talked like this for about 3 hours. It felt like 3 hours, 3 hours straight, not even breathing between one sentence and the next. It was mesmerizing, and that is not good communication. So what I do is I try to help you learn how to communicate better. I teach you those skills. So at least you have a foundation to work with and can do a better job. Know how to pause, understand that in context with all the soft skills. But then we get into some other things like building your cybersecurity program. There are a lot of unique things. I'm very much connected in the CISO community. I talk about different strategies that you can do, and that's going to be the whole process you could use to build the program. Then we get into personnel and corporate context. And a lot of that has to do with individual people, but it also has to do with culture. We spend a lot of time diving into culture and making sure that at least you have an understanding and a foundation of culture because it matters. I can tell you, having grown up in New York City has a very different culture than, say, California. We have a different approach. We have different ways of looking at things. We tend to be a little more forward than some others. So learning about different cultures, learning the why is extraordinarily important. Then we go into the management leadership techniques. And again, emotional intelligence skills and a lot of other skills are brought in. And so I'm teaching those skills to you so you have them, especially if you come from a technical background. These can be very, very helpful for you. So once we get through all of that, get into planning for your success as a CISO. This, I think, is very important, and it starts on day one. It doesn't start, 6 months in. It doesn't start 2 years later. You should be doing this right away. So I walk you through a lot of things you can do. What are your first 100 days going to look like? You should be doing this, in some cases, before you even step into the role. That's part of what it means for planning for your success as a CISO. And it's something that you cannot skip. Then we go into risk management. I talk about all the problems with risk quantification. And I know so many CISOs, they'll go out and they'll hear some issue and they'll buy some brand new product or service and think, I've quantified it. Now I'll go to the boss and I'm going to get the answers. And meanwhile, the CFO or others are like, I don't believe you. And they summarily dismiss everything that you have to say. It is not just about a number. It is so much more than that. And if you think that it's purely about a number, you've missed the whole point of leadership. You've missed the whole point of your soft skills. And there are so many better ways that you have at your disposal that you can influence other people. Then we get into advancing cybersecurity programs, bringing in some of the governance and some of those other angles. And finally, we go into the board of directors, communicating some of the challenges there, et cetera. So the course itself is definitely well more than 1,000 slides. But again, don't worry, there's a lot that we're going to be diving into. But before we do that, though, let's get into the teaching methodologies. I'm not going to read this verbatim, but this is for you to take a look at. If you decide to pause the video and want to take a look at it, there is a lot of stuff that I'm doing within this course. I'm encouraging different types of training. There's storytelling, deliberate practices, scenario-based learning, which we have in here. But all of these things help your retention, and hopefully you're going to have more to take back if that's the direction you want to go. You're going to have more at your disposal. Group discussions. Definitely this is part of it. Usually these run no more than 30 minutes, but they're good to have people understand what's going on, and it does help liven the situation. Now, anybody Anybody can say, hey, I've got a question. And then you can ask a question. We'll have a discussion about it as a group. We also have deep dives. So what these are things that will take usually more than an hour. For example, there's an incident response scenario. I do cover a case using your financial skills that you need to use your financial skills and communicate. So the financial skills, it isn't just we have some financial skill that's out there, you use them in context. You're going to be reporting into Chief Financial Officer, and I want to hear your arguments and I want to hear how you bring things up. So that's a big part of this. Case studies. These are thrown in throughout the entire training course. And these are real world scenarios. A lot of them you've heard of, and part of it, you may not have had a chance to dive into the background elements behind it. You may have heard of it, but the background elements people have been finding very helpful because it provides context for beliefs that may or may not be true. So I think that a lot of these are going to be helpful for you. There are a lot of improvement games too. For example, I will make, as the instructor, a poor statement or poor scenario I'll introduce. And then you, as a participant, you are going to respond. So this is to get you to go. And believe it or not, this is much harder than you may think. I find people sometimes sitting there 2 or 3 minutes trying to figure out what's a better way to respond. When you talk about emotional intelligence, it is not always easy. And people, including myself, make mistakes on how to respond. This is to improve you and at least point you in a direction where you can do a little bit better. Then at the end, of course, I do show a response. It's a recommended based on the course. And of course, recommendations. Obviously, after each section, I do cover recommendations. It's never enough because there's just so much material that we're diving into. But I think it's really good for you to know that at least you have some follow-on activities or book recommendations or things like that that will be helpful for you. Finally, I do cover when to exit. Is it going to be helpful to know that? Yes, in many cases. And that exit could mean you, or it could mean an employee. And looking at that big picture, looking at that context, that's what's really important, is understanding where things are at, because you've got to have a head on your shoulders and you've got to say, hey, here's the context that you're looking at. Is this going to be detrimental or is it helpful to have a particular employee on a team? I'm going to teach you how to turn them around. You should be doing your best job because you're a leader, you're a manager, you're a bunch of things as a CISO, but your goal is to try to create alignment. Now, that can mean a lot of different things and it does deserve a lot of discussion, but you'll just have to take the course to learn some more. But I want to thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to go through a couple of slides with you and kind of show you some individual details if you have any further questions. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place on LinkedIn. Just look for the bald head and I'll be there. But happy to help you out. But if you have any questions, reach out. I'm more than happy to help. But I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.